It's story time again. These books that I read are for adults, so no Karens in the comments please. Also let me know if you want to have a look at my book collection. I might do a couple of videos going through all the books that I've got, because I've got quite a few. With that being said, let's go with today's story. The Golden Shower. Winston the chipmunk lives in a cosy burrow among soaring maple trees. His home was just beyond a sea of rolling wheat fields. He led a rather normal and slightly boring life for a chipmunk. Every morning he rose before sunrise to sweep his front stoop and wash his whiskers. Winston's favourite part of the day was foraging for his favourite meal: blueberries, wheat kernels and chestnuts. Unfortunately, only blueberries were easy to find in the meadow. Grains and nuts were a special treat. Sometimes Winston thought about looking for grains and nuts elsewhere, but he didn't like to stray too far from home. He knew his meadow well, and besides, he didn't want to risk getting lost. However, now and again Winston ventured to the neighbouring meadow to visit his friend Franklin. It was a curious friendship because Franklin was different from Winston in every way. Instead of rising early, Franklin liked to stay out late and sleep in. Instead of following a schedule, Franklin's days were filled with spontaneous adventures. Instead of staying close to home, Franklin often travelled to the distant farm beyond the meadow to pilfer wheat and chestnuts. Despite these differences, Winston and Franklin had a close friendship. Franklin was a good storyteller, and Winston's favourite pastime was listening to Franklin's daring exploits at the farm. Winston would often stay up past his bedtime listening to Franklin's stories. "You really fit your entire fist in there," Winston asked in belief, as Franklin regaled him with another one of his adventures from the farm. "I sure did. It wasn't easy, but I got my hand in," Franklin replied. "I pulled out a fistful of wheat, but the hole in the barn was so small that my hand nearly got stuck the second time," he laughed. So it went, with Franklin feasting on wheat and chestnuts while Winston stuck to his bland diet of berries. Although he would never admit it to Franklin, Winston often fantasized about travelling to the farm beyond the meadow to star in his own adventure. Little did he know, that day was just around the corner. One afternoon, Winston walked over to Franklin's house as he usually did when the weather was particularly pleasant. As he approached, he saw Franklin standing in front of his burrow, and he could tell that something was different. "Winston," Franklin yelled, "isn't it your birthday next Saturday?" "Well, yes," Winston answered hesitantly. "Perfect," Franklin replied. "Something happened to me at the farm last night, and I haven't been the same since." "It was so unexpectedly wonderful that I arranged the same thing for you as a birthday present," he exclaimed. "What is it?" Winston asked as he sat down. "It's a surprise," Franklin said with a grin. "But at the farm, they call it a golden shower." "I've never had that before," said Winston. Winston was reluctant to visit the farm, but he had never seen Franklin so excited before. "I don't know about this," said Winston. "How do I even get a golden shower?" "You need to find a chipmunk named Candy. She lives near the base of the silo, but she's only there on weekends," Franklin explained. "Candy? That's a strange name," said Winston. "When you find her, tell her I sent you, and she'll know what to do," Franklin said. The day had come and it was finally Winston's birthday. He spent the previous week trying to figure out what was in store for him at the farm, but he could not guess what a golden shower might be. He did discover one detail though. Franklin had told him that golden showers were not free. Since it was his birthday present, Franklin helped Winston gather berries to trade. I hope I don't regret this, Winston thought to himself as he started off toward the farm. I think you might. By midday, Winston was approaching the silo next to the barn. He stopped on a small hill overlooking the silo, and they waited for a sign of movement. There, a slender silhouette emerged from behind the chestnut tree near the silo. It had to be Candy. Winston scurried up and asked hesitantly, Are you Candy? Hi there, she said sweetly. Yes, I am Candy. What can I do for you? Franklin sent me. He said that you would know what to do. He talked about a golden shower, Winston said sheepishly, as he held out the berries he had bought. Ah, yes. It's one of my specialties, Candy replied. Is this your first time here? She asked. Yes, Winston whispered. I don't usually leave my meadow. Well, don't worry. You'll enjoy this, she said to reassure him. Candy took half of Winston's berries, then climbed up to a door marked with a big number 1 on the silo. Ready? She called down. Yes, Winston replied weakly. Candy pried open the door, and the golden kernels of wheat came pouring down on Winston. I should have known, he thought to himself. What a treat! He was so happy he could hardly breathe. He rarely ever got to eat wheat, and never so much all at once. He was having such a good time that he barely noticed Candy had shut the door. That's all I can do for today, Candy yelled down. Do you want some time to clean up? I can get you a towel if you like. No thanks, I'm just fine, Winston exclaimed. He picked a few stray grains from his whiskers and popped them in his mouth. As Candy descended, Winston's eyes strayed to the back door of the silo. It had a big number 2 on it. Oh no. What about the back door? Winston asked. You know, number 2. Candy hesitated. That is a bit more difficult, she said. I've tried before, but nothing came out. It takes a lot of work and some luck. However, she continued, I could give it a try for the rest of your berries. Okay, Winston said. His curiosity rose. Candy climbed up to the second floor and squatted down to get into a good position. Are you ready? She shouted down to Winston. Yes, Winston said confidently. Candy strained with all her might, but the back door burst open. This time something came out and it was magical. Oh my God. Several warm brown objects rained down on Winston. There were so many that he didn't realise what they were until he caught one in his mouth and rolled it around his tongue. Chestnuts, he shouted with glee. Winston opened his mouth and swallowed several more before Candy let the last one squeeze out. When Candy climbed back down to the ground, Winston said, That was an amazing experience. Thank you so much. Candy laughed. I'm here most weekends, so you can always come back, she said. I will, Winston said over his shoulder as he started home. I can't wait to tell Franklin, he thought to himself.